Good morning, fifth graders. I wanted to give you guys a quick lesson on how to find equivalent fractions using the multiplication table. Yesterday, we did a lot of practice with multiplication and division to find our equivalent fractions. And then today, we're actually going to use the table to help us find these equivalent fractions. So it says that you can use the table to find equivalent fractions. Well, down here, you'll notice there's kind of a pattern going on here. They highlighted already in gray if we're starting with 3/5. So we'd find the 3 and the 5 on the multiplication table, and we'd highlight everything after that. I went ahead and did it for you for the following problems, but normally you would take a highlighter to it. So you'll notice if I take 3 times 1, I still have 3. And 3 times 5, I still have 5. So that's the same as one group of 3/5 is 3/5. Well, if I use a multiplier of 2, and we use our multiplication table, remember we look up here to see what we're multiplying by. So if I was to use the multiplier of 2, working with 3, I would end up at 6. And if I was to use a multiplier of 5, working with 3, I'd end up at 15. So if you notice, if I multiply, and I'm going to use a little pencil here for you, if I multiply by 2 here, I end up with 6/10. Whoop. And then if I go ahead and I multiply by 3, so if I took 3 and I multiplied it by 3, I end up here at 9. So if I multiply it by 3 down here, 3 times 3 is 9, 5 times 3 is 15. And it goes on and on and on. So 3 times 4 is 12, 5 times 4 is 20. And again, if I multiplied by 4 down here, I'd be the same thing. So what we're trying to show you here is the relationship is that whenever you multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number, it's still an equivalent fraction. Those pieces are just getting smaller. So for example here, I'm going to have a little 3/5. Remember, 4 lines gives me 5 pieces. So I'm going to make 4 lines. And if you guys want to do this in your notebook at home, that might help you for today's lesson. So I'm going to have 3/5 here. So I have 1, 2, 3/5. Ooh, the last one didn't end up very well there. Let's try that one again. So here's my 3/5. Now, if I'm multiplying these by 2, that means I'm just cutting each piece in half, right? Splitting each piece in 2. So if I split each piece in 2, I'm just going to cut them in half. Here's what I end up with. I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them colored in. The same would go on again. If I was to split them into 3 pieces, I'd split them again, and nothing ever actually changes on this. Your pieces get smaller, but the amount that's colored in never actually changes. So the next one says color rows 4 and 9 on the first table. Use the table to compare equivalent fractions for 4/9. I already did this for you in the yellow here. So if you look at your 4 and your 9, again, if you multiply it by 1, you're still at 4/9. If you were to split those pieces into 2, or multiply by 2, you're at 8/18. And you'll notice I did the first 3 for you here to kind of help you out. Again, 4 times 3 is 12. 9 times 3 is 27. So if I was to split it into 3 pieces, I would end up with 12/27. And you guys are literally going to follow the multiplication table and use these as your multipliers here. So I did the first ones for you. So we ended up with 8/18 when we multiplied by 2 here. We ended up with 12/27 when we multiplied by 3 here. We ended up with 16/36 when we multiplied by 4. Now you're going to go here and multiply by 5, multiply by 6, multiply by 7, and so on. Again, these pieces, the amount that you have isn't changing. Your pieces might be getting smaller. If I have 40/90, I have teeny little pieces, 40 of them. but it still would be the same as 4/9. Now, when you go down here, it's the same thing, but I want you guys to try this one on your own. 3/8. Again, I colored them in for you, so if you need to follow the multiplication table, you can. And then the last one is 1/4 and 1/3. I'd like to see if you could challenge yourself to not use the multiplication table, but if you need it, that's okay. So I'm going to give you a quick example here for 1/4. So I'm starting with 1/4, and then I need to multiply it by 1. I'm still at 1/4. I'm not going to write that one down. If I was to multiply it by 2, excuse my messy drawings here, I'd end up with 2/8. And then I would take 2/8. Oops, let me clear this for you here. So then I would take my 2/8 and I would put it down here. And you guys on your computer, it's a lot easier if you just do the slash. Get them on top of each other is nearly impossible. So if you look how I did it up here, just keep it as a slash. So that was 1/4 times 2. Now I'm going to take 1/4 times 3, and I'm going to do the same exact thing here. So then I know that 1 times 3 is 3, 4 times 3 is 12. I'm at 3/12 now. I'm going to put that down here. Again, it's still the same as 1/4. It's just smaller pieces. And you guys will do the same thing for 1/3 down there. Times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5, times 6. And remember, just think of your pieces getting smaller, but the amount that you have stays the same. This is actually represented on our next slide. So what we have here is we start with 3/4, and I split them for you with these little red lines. It's still the same as 3/4. We're working in eighths, we're working in 12ths, but it's still 3/4. So when we go here, it's asking you in this text box, how many eighths do you have now? Well, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 eighths. So you just plug it into your little box up here. Multiplier. Well, if I went from 3/4 to 6/8, what did I need to multiply it by? It looks to me like I had to multiply it by 2. And then over here, same things. 3 times 2, 4 times 2. Well, I know 4 times 2 is 8. So 3 times 2 is 6. So now I'm left with 6/8. If it's too hard to type in these boxes, you guys, I let you also put it in here. So what was your multiplier? Or multiplier by 2. What was your new fraction? 6/8. So I know these boxes are kind of small, so if it doesn't fit in here for you, just put it over here. And you'll do the same thing with the last one. With this, you guys, do your best. If you need to zoom in, up here, there's the little crosshairs with the little magnifying glass. I've found that if you click on it, you can zoom in, or you can also select how much you want to zoom in. That might be a little bit too much. It's kind of small if you do it regularly. I might zoom in a little bit, and actually this might work because then you can click on each box and type. So if you need to zoom in and out, feel free. And then your last one here is Mr. Puzzled Penguin. Dear math students, I tried to find a fraction equivalent to 5/6. I multiplied the denominator by 2 to make a smaller unit fractions. That can't be right because 5/6 is almost 1 and 5/12 is less than 1/2. Why didn't my method work? Well, he has his work shown right here. So I'd go off of this. Why doesn't this work? And guys, I'd like a couple sentence response. And then when you're all done with this, just submit. I know it's our first day trying to work through the workbook online, so it might be a little bit tricky. If you need anything, give me an email, but I think this will go pretty well. And just remember, if you need to use your multiplication chart, you can, but let's kind of try to push ourselves to use our own multiplication facts. All right, guys, happy Friday and good luck.